how about you guys tell people what you guys were up to last week? You guys were doing some shoots, and well, you guys are working on a lot of stuff actually.
Yeah, we got a ton of stuff going on. We recently just got back from a trip to San Francisco doing some stuff for Ghirardelli. Ghirardelli Chocolate's a corporate company, and we do a lot of their internal videos and stuff on their website. I think one of our big videos is on their career website. So yeah, pretty stoked.
Nice. So what was the project for?
It was for Ghirardelli's HR department, and they're actually going to screen it at like an all-employee meeting. And then I think eventually they're going to put it on their website to kind of drum up more corporate interest in working at Ghirardelli. So right now there's a video on the website that we did called The Day in the Life of, and it's kind of following the day in the life of employees. This one was based on like their values. So we went and filmed a bunch of different people at different places in their company and had them speak to their values. They have 6 specific values. So it was fun. It was cool. And Sam and I just did it ourselves, and we hired a sound person up in San Francisco. And he brought his own gear, and we trucked our gear up there, and it was cool.
Nice. Cool. Well, we had a question from Alexander asking, are you guys taking questions on video? And also we've got the forum. We're going to try to balance out the questions that we're getting live, because we definitely want to make this kind of a discussion with you guys who are watching now, but we also want to try to answer as many questions as possible from the list. So I think we should actually just get started, and we can start answering these questions. To be honest with everyone, we haven't actually looked at the questions, so this is going to be fun for us. It's we're just going to, go for it. And some of these questions are a bit long, so I'm going to have to read them, and then I'm going to make Will and Sam answer them first. But then
to the best of our knowledge.
Yeah, some of these we might, some of these will be able to answer perfectly. Some we might have to do research ourselves, or, point you in another direction, but we'll see how it goes. And we're planning to do this, try to do this once a month. I think it'll be really beneficial for the class. The class has gotten an amazing response already, which we are excited about. And for anyone who's on YouTube watching this who isn't in the class, this is a live Q&A kind of office hours discussion for the new video production boot camp that we launched in December, I guess.
End of December.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in that, I will post links in the description of this video later on. So anyways, let's get started with our first question that we got for a while ago. We got this from Brian. He was asking about marketing videos. He says, I want to create a multivariant based video for a niche, plumbers, then add intros and outros to make those videos specific for the various types of plumbers and their location. I want 100 videos created fast that would be for different people, plumbers in Dallas, Miami, Nashville, etc. Each video has a unique overlay with a phone number to call locally to contact the plumber, and then a system where the video automatically forwards to a website URL when the video ends. For mobile, Android, and iOS devices, there would be a tap to call overlay on the top of the video for people to tap to call. It can be done, he says. Show me how these videos are made with these features on the web page and what software is needed to make these functions work. Wow, that is quite the question. I don't know if you guys know kind of how that would work with, first, maybe you can talk about how to kind of quickly or efficiently create videos like that. Like if people want to create a lot of videos that are similar, but maybe with a few different changes, especially in the titles, do you have any advice about that?
Yeah, it sounds like that's sort of a thing where you would kind of come up with a concept for the video on paper and basically execute it once and then use that as a template and then just interchange what you kind of need to do as you go along. Phil, you might be able to speak better on the editing side of that, but I think as far as like going out and like pre-producing and then shooting it, come up with a template, have a shot list, make sure when you go to one location, just check off the list, get wide shot, get this shot, and then go to editing, and depending on what editing program, maybe you could speak to that, like you can just plug in and even have a template that you can just plug in. I think that would be the best way as far as like production of the video goes.
Yeah, I agree. You can create templates in After Effects. You could even just have a title template in Premiere Pro. I love After Effects for more advanced graphics, but it can get a little bit tricky. And sometimes I just like making things a little bit simpler. And if you're just putting up titles that are for like a person's brand or location and then a number at the end, then I would just make it as simple as just doing it in Premiere Pro or really whatever editor. In terms of the whole tapping on the video, the best way or the only way I know of right now is through YouTube's annotations or cards. You can create clickable annotations, and I'm not exactly sure if there's a way to make a URL that directs to a phone call. That's something that you'd have to do some research yourself, but you could basically link out on top of your video to anything, any URL website. So if you have like a website, or maybe there is some sort of contact page, that's probably the best way that I would do it, through YouTube's cards and annotations. Now, note though that annotations don't work on mobile. They only work on the desktop version of watching videos on YouTube. So you would use YouTube cards, or YouTube has a newer thing called the end screen. And if you go into your account and if you go into any of your videos, you can click on it, the edit option, and you can look through the cards and the end screen to basically design that and then add links to whatever URL you want. So I think we're going to leave it at that. And you might have more questions.
It sounds like a lot of work though.
Yeah, it sounds like 100 videos. That sounds like a lot of work.
I would definitely recommend making a full outline in advance of that. And I think the tap to dial thing is definitely something to research, but at some point, just going through and doing the outline like Will said is going to make all the difference when it comes to production. Knowing what you're trying to achieve, how much time it's actually going to take to produce all those videos.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to switch back and forth between questions in the feed and then also from the forum. So Alex has a question in the feed saying he has a YouTube marketing question: one channel for two similar niches or two separate channels for each niche. Thoughts on how it might affect view time and video ranking. So basically wondering, should you create a channel for each topic, each niche, or I guess one channel, and if that affects view time and video ranking? Do you have any initial thoughts?
I don't know. For me, it's always, I feel like putting all your effort into one channel with an overlay thing would probably be the way that I would go. That way, like, you're not doing everything twice. I don't know. You have multiple channels. Like, how do you feel about that? Because I feel like you have like several different like ways, even though you have the Video School Online above. How's that work?
It's tough. I think I agree that like having multiple channels is a lot of work. But at the same time, it's easier to grow a channel if it's on a specific niche. So sure. That's why we created our Video School Online Tech channel separately, because we wanted to separate our tech, gear, photo, video related questions from all these other videos that I've been creating related to everything from personal finance to my vlog style videos and everything else.
Well, that helps. That helps too when you have multiple people, though. Like if you're one person, do you have separate Twitters? Do you have separate Instagrams? Do you have separate channels? Like it's,
Yeah. So it's tough, but I think in terms of the ranking and the view time, the goal is to match the viewer's expectation with whatever your video is. So however someone finds your video, whether it's through YouTube search, whether they're subscribed to your channel, making sure that you match their expectations is going to increase the view time, which will then increase the ranking. So having a channel on a specific niche, that's going to mean that people subscribe to that channel and come to that channel and watch that channel because they are interested in those videos. If you then end up posting videos on some random topic that's not related, people are going to click on those videos and they're going to realize it's not what they were looking for. And then they're going to click off, and that's going to hurt your watch time. So that's actually, at the end of the day, probably the best reason why I would ultimately separate it, but just realize that a great channel has to be consistent. So make sure that your workload for each channel, you can do each channel. One thing we did with the Video School Online Tech channel is we batch created a lot of the videos back in November, October, September. So we've been releasing videos this whole time, but at the end of the day, we are running out of content now. It's about time that we have to keep creating content. So it's a lot of work to keep 2 channels. I mean, I haven't posted a video on my YouTube channel in almost a month. I just posted one today, but it's tough.
You're lagging.
Stuff.
You're slacking, Phil.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's get to the next one from the forum. I want to make a movie. What is the best way to distribute this to a paying audience? Or should I try to make money through other means like product placement? I plan on making a family-friendly entertainment movie, maybe an hour to an hour and a half. Ooh, that's a good question. I think you guys can tackle.
Yeah. Sam?
In terms of distribution, I mean, there's a few different methods nowadays, right? Of course, you have Vimeo, and does YouTube accept payments now? Are they doing? I haven't actually heard of that, but I know Vimeo, you can definitely do have people, subscribe or pay to watch your film. Beyond that, it's trying to get your film into Netflix or these other streaming services, which is a lot more work, and definitely you probably need some help from someone that's actually in that world. But if you're trying to just do the independent route, I think Vimeo is a great resource there. I'm trying to think of other video streaming services.
I think Vimeo is probably the easiest because it's right there as an option for people to basically put your video behind a paywall, and they take care of the transaction. You could set it up on your own site somehow, but Vimeo is probably the easiest.
Did he say what kind? It also depends on the type of video. Did he say what kind it was?
He just said a family-friendly entertainment movie.
Yeah,
like a narrative, a longer film.
Yeah, if it's a narrative, like you may find better luck just actually submitting it to film festivals and going and meeting actual distributors that come and like buy stuff. Like it's a product, and you want to find a buyer, so you go find a distributor. Like it's like any other business. It's just where you're willing to put it. But yeah, I think Vimeo. Yeah. If you don't want to leave your house.
And film festivals is a great route too, especially if there's a local film festival in your community or something like that. It's just a good way to show your product to the film community, and if you can go and actually attend, you can meet people there and find different distribution routes that way. But even if it doesn't get bought or go out into the world, at least you can connect with people, and maybe that leads to the next project or something.
I'm sure there's other sites too that aren't like Vimeo is meant for that. I mean, there's other you could put it on a website or
Yeah, that's what, and John Homer commented, you can put it behind some sort of pay gateway on your membership site if you have a membership site. An easy way to do that without even a whole membership site is a tool called Gumroad.com, where you can basically upload any sort of digital file and sell it, and you can just put a link on your website. So there's other options aside from Gumroad, but that's the one that I've used, and it's really easy.
But ultimately, to go onto Vimeo and do that, that's the easiest way to get people to come find it. I mean, if your website's heavily trafficked, great. But if you're just trying to get the random person to stumble upon it and watch it, then Vimeo definitely seems like the most, the easiest way to do that, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. I think we nailed that one. So let's get to a question on the chat. We got one from where can I get free video intro templates? Free video intro templates. That's probably a question for me. I mean, honestly, I don't have anything off the top of my head. I usually pay for mine from videohive.net. It's relatively cheap for like After Effects templates or just regular templates, maybe between 10 and 20 bucks. And the quality is going to be really good. Fiverr.com is another place to find them. In terms of free, I would just search on Google for free video intro templates. I don't have anything off the top of my mind. You might be able to find some on like specific people's websites who are like motion graphics artists, but there's not like one that I know of off the top of my head, honestly. So.
And for the most part, even if they say they're free, most of those places are gonna show you like the simplest, most basic one, and then from there have tack-ons to purchase them and all that type of stuff anyway. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, I just searched free video templates right now, and the first one is Biteable.com. I don't know. You check it out, and maybe you guys can let us know if that works for you. Cool. Awesome. So how's everyone doing in the chat? I'm going to post the link to the course if anyone is interested in the course and who's not here from the course. It's basically a whole beginner boot camp for video production. Cool. So let's get to our next question from the list. Hello, good people. First, thank you so much for the great decision. I'm actually wanting to make better educational videos and tutorials. So many times it needs to be on screen because my background is computer engineering. So I want to make code related video. Give me some valuable tips and share some valuable resources so that I can make a great tutorial. I would just look for tutorials on YouTube related to your topic, or watch other Udemy courses. You can preview a lot of Udemy courses for free and just kind of see what style you like. If you have like more specific questions about how you record on your screen, like a program in your computer, please feel free to ask us. We have a whole screen recording lesson in the course that I suggest you watch as well. But really, I just learned by watching other people's videos. So that's what I would suggest.
I would say when it comes to, because I've gotten questions from a few people doing coding videos now, and after watching a few myself, I do think there is some level of personality and engagement to start off your videos, at least, that really helps keep it energetic and sort of because once you get into the technical stuff, at least for myself, it's hard to stay with it. And I get it, if you're actually coding and learning something there, then you're engaged. But just for those intros and those outros, keeping those sort of fun and light spirited, and then when you get into the technical stuff, great. But I think trying to not be too dry the whole time will really help, and catch people early, like get them engaged, and then go into the more nitty-gritty stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Even for programming videos, yeah, showing yourself will help build that connection with the students.
Yeah.
So I think that's good advice. So if you guys have any more questions in the chat, feel free to chat us. We're just going to keep going with our list. Hi, I like ScreenFlow, but the video from my Logitech C920 makes my face look broader than it is. I assume that's because it is a wide angle lens. Can I use my T5i, my Canon T5i with the kit lens and a Magwell card to record in ScreenFlow? I don't think the Canon T5i has a clean HDMI out. Yeah, that's true. Your Canon T5i isn't going to have a clean HDMI out. Let me look up the product that allows you to basically use a DSLR as a webcam. Will, do you want to talk anything about wide angle lenses and making faces look broad?
If the camera, I don't know exactly what camera that is, but yeah, if it is a wide angle lens, it will like kind of bow on the sides, or even like this webcam on our computer, like you can kind of tell it's sort of bowing out at the edges just to get as much coverage as possible. Phil's obviously is a little bit cleaner. I think yours still is a little bowing maybe in the background.
I mean, I'm using the Logitech C920 right now. What they're doing, so I guess the thing would be that you would want to get a little bit further away from the camera. I mean, if I get up here really close, you start to see that wide angle lens.
Yeah, I'd say further away, and you have it at like a down angle a little bit, and I think that's also a little bit more flattering as opposed to like dead on or a lower angle. So
yeah, I put it a little bit lower for your courses because I feel like I'm looking up, but yeah, just a tiny bit above eye level might help.
So there are things you can do to help do that, but I mean, I always think DSLRs or any professional camera, even with a kit lens, is going to be better than a web camera or anything that's meant for that.
That being said, I mean, and Phil, you can speak to this more than we can, but there's something about having your camera set up on your desk. It's there. It's always there. your T5i, you might want to go out in the field or do other things, and then you have to reset it up each time. And I guess it depends on how much they're actually doing this. But if you can have your home setup be your home setup, and then your camera, and then have your camera that you go out in the field with as two separate things, that might be a worthwhile thing to figure out.
Yeah. So this is also something that I have looked up, and I've tried to figure out how to use DSLR cameras as a webcam. There's different ways to kind of jimmy rig it to work. The tool that I would look into, it's called Blackmagic. Bless you. Blackmagic Intensity. And I'll post the link to in the chat. Blackmagic Intensity. This is basically something where you can plug in a camera that does have an HDMI out or other outputs, and it converts it for your computer. So you can't just plug in your HDMI from your camera to your computer and have it work. For most cameras, you need a converter, and that's the one that I've used before. Actually, when I worked at UC Berkeley, they used that for their sort of online learning setup. They had a camera and a station all set up for teachers to come in at whatever time and record. They were using a handy cam camera, though. It wasn't a DSLR, but I believe it should work with the Canon T5i. So
have you ever looked up this Magewell?
Oh yeah, that's what he was asking. What is that now?
It's similar to the Blackmagic, and I'm not sure in terms of price how they compare, but it seems like a similar product to the Blackmagic one.
Yeah, it does look like. So you already look. It already looks like you kind of know what you're looking into. I can't say for sure if that's going to work with the T5i, though. I'd have to do some research. So maybe just search for some on forums if that Magewell works with the T5i before you purchase it.
Blackmagic, though, is definitely an industry. I mean, a lot of people have used those. They've been proven to work, and they're definitely a good company to purchase from. So
yeah. Cool. All right, awesome. We got another question from James Cousins. He asked, "What do you guys think if the GH5, debating that or an A7S2, the Sony A7S2?" So for people who don't know, these are two mirrorless cameras, and the GH5 is announced. It's not out yet, is it?
Yeah, I think you can only pre-order it.
It just got announced. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Do you guys know much about that?
Ish.
The only thing I can say, from experience is that the A7S2 has been proven and tested. It's a wonderful camera. Like most mirrorless cameras, it's lightweight. It shoots the 4K and amazing low light sensitivity. That being said, I know that the GH4 pre the A7S was a very popular camera, and a lot of people have been waiting for the GH5 to come out. The specs alone make it seem wonderful. I mean, it's 4K uncropped, shoot up to 60 frames per second in 4K. You have, good high resolution photos that come out of it. You have 10-bit Kodak for the 4K video, which basically is how much information's in the actual image, and that's remarkable for such a small camera. I'll be interested to see if it has like overheating issues or how long the battery actually lasts when shooting at those higher frame rates, because that's a lot for a small camera to deal with. But again, the A7S2 came out last year. Technology is changing so rapidly these days. Maybe the GH5 is going to blow the rest out of the water. But without testing myself, I can't say.
I'm just reading some of the specs. One thing off the bat is it's going to be cheaper. The GH4 is, if you want to get a great camera, get a used GH4. And now that the GH5 is announced, you could probably get one for under $1,000. The GH5, I guess it's going to launch at $2,000, which is still like $700 or so cheaper than the standard A7S2 price. And that's new for the GH5. There's some things for people who are creating tutorials like me or vlogging that might really like the GH5. It sounds like it has a fully articulating screen, so you can basically watch yourself filming. So that's really good if you're filming by yourself. I guess the one thing that it looks like the A7S II still dominates at is the ISO. And that's really one of the reasons why people love the A7S, is because you can shoot in low light with a higher ISO. I mean, that thing's crazy. You could practically shoot at night with it. So that's something I'm sure once the GH5 does get launched, you'll see some tests for the ISO and some comparisons. I don't know if we'll be able to get our hands on one of those.
We should try it.
Yeah, we should try, because that'd be cool.
You know, the GH4, like Sam was saying, like I know tons of people that were using GH4 and still do. Professionals use it, like they're using it as B cameras, as crash cams, as like, you know, it's a really solid workhorse camera. And people like the image that comes right out of it. I think that's one of the biggest things with the GH4, and it was such a low price for 4K. You know, the A7, you know, 2 has been our go-to camera for that size, but mostly because we have bigger Sony cameras and our color log will match it, and we can, you know, share lenses. I think he said he's still using a speed booster with it.
Yeah, with the 18-35, that goes down to 1.8.
So I think if you're comparing the two cameras between a GH5 and an A7, it really comes down to like what you're doing with it, what your budget is, you know, what your workflow is. If you're going to shoot yourself, I mean, obviously that's a big factor. So yeah.
I mean, as much as, well, I would say Sam and Will are definitely more like on the front of the lines when new equipment comes out. But for me, I'm always, as much as I'm into video production, obviously I wait to buy my equipment. And so I would just wait to see, because I remember when the GH5 was announced, I don't know, a few months ago or last year, they were saying that this is going to be the video maker's camera, like the video maker's DSLR or mirrorless camera. And so they're kind of packing it with everything that a video shooter would want, with the quality, the resolutions, the speed, and everything. So yeah, but it comes down to testing it out. So
yeah, I mean, I think once it's out on the market, you'll be able to hear a little bit more what people think, how, you know, if there are any faulty things with it. But I don't think you can go wrong either way. And if any of those features, like the screen coming off, or having, you know, that 4K resolution, I'm not sure, or if having the low light sensitivity. You know, one thing I will say, the speed booster with the 18-35 1.8, I've shot with a similar setup, and your depth of field is so thin. And yes, you have tons of light coming in, and it's great. But on the A7S, you can boost up the ISO, not have to deal with, you know, a hairline focal or focus plane. It makes it just a little bit easier. So kind of depends what you're using it for. I would say, you know, if you can purchase the GH5 in a place where you're able to return it after so many days, maybe, you know, do a test like that.
Yeah, just rent it.
Or rent it, yeah. But I will say the A7S II is a great camera. It's been tested, used. I have no doubt the GH5 won't be a great camera, and you'll save $700 to maybe, you know, pay for that lens or you know, some cards or some extra batteries. But yeah, they both seem like great cameras.
Cool. Well, I hope that answers your question, James. Let us know if you have any more. So let's hit up one of these quick questions from the list. There's a question: can you indicate to us what's the cheapest equipment with the best balance for making good, decent video? Yeah. So I think this is actually something we answered in the class. So I would check out that equipment section, the very first lesson. We talk about kind of like the basic setup. And really, all of us agree at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about the tools. We suggest just getting out there and using what you have. So for me, I'll just say really quickly, the cheapest setup, it depends on what you got to do. Like if you're going out and shooting elsewhere, then you're going to need a camera that you can shoot with. But if you're at home recording tutorials or talking head videos or starting a YouTube channel and you're just talking, which a lot of people in the class want to do, you could start with your camera. I mean, even though I recommend getting an external webcam like the Logitech C920, Will and Sam are using just the internal webcam on their computer, and the webcams are decent nowadays. I guess I would start with some sort of better audio, better microphone. And we mentioned some of those in the class, like the Blue Snowball as like probably the cheapest, easiest USB microphone to get started with. And then with lighting, we also talk about this in the class, the paper lantern setup. So, or the Home Depot setup, which we actually haven't posted that lesson to the course yet. We just have to film the end of that. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other ideas for just the best overall budget,
I think
budget versus quality.
It just depends on like what you're doing exactly. You know, like we know we have filmed with iPhones when we have to, especially when clients want us to. On one end, on the other end, like we've had people ask us where we need to be recording for more than an hour and nonstop and tap into a sound, board and have lights. So that's a whole nother piece of equipment that we may need to rent. But yeah, it literally depends on what you're doing. If you're doing vlogging and stuff, obviously your camera looks much better than ours right now, but that's not what we do most of the time. So yeah, just, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
It's knowing your equipment as well. Especially if you're being paid, know that the equipment you have is right for the job, that's capable for the job. And that you don't show up when someone's paying you and you don't have the necessary equipment, or you're not able to do what they've asked you to do. If you're doing it for yourself, then just practice, test, see what your gear is capable of doing. I've shot with very small cameras to very large cameras and put the two together and no one knows the difference. So yeah,
but I would watch the lessons in the course. I think we kind of answered that exact question in the course. So if you have specific questions about specific gear, let us know. There's a question from Sugar Duck about a text box animation. I'm going to look up the tutorial because I actually have a tutorial that explains how to do that in After Effects. But in the meantime, Jade Newbolt asks, what kind of method do you use for footage delivery? Now, Jade, I want you to clarify if I'm not getting this right, but I think the question is, just how do you work with files and delivering content and footage after a shoot? This is something that we've worked together on because I edit a lot of projects for you, and you also organize your files and footage on your own computer. But can you just kind of talk about that?
Yeah, we typically, and there's a few different methods we use. Typically, Dropbox was the main tool or application that we were using, just because it integrates with your desktop and all that. We recently actually switched to Box, which is basically Dropbox, but the one difference is that with a paid subscription, you're able to put password protection on the links that you share, and that was a big deal for us for some of the stuff we were sharing. WeTransfer is another great one if it's to someone maybe that might not have Dropbox or these different services where you need to download, and you can just send them the file. WeTransfer is great for that. And then Google Drive, not so much for video though. That's more so for photos or for different things like that.
You can put video on it, but like for the big like stock file, like all our files for all our footage, if we have to share it over the internet, yeah, Dropbox or Box.
What about just for like after a shoot? Like, what do you keep in mind for getting like hard drives or? Oh yeah,
so I mean our workflow. I mean I can go through our entire workflows. Like we end up using usually two LaCie. In fact, I have one right here. We usually use these rugged LaCie external drives. They're usually 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte depending on what we're shooting, and we always have 2 for a shoot. So we back them up while we're shooting. Then when we come back to our office, we have a little small server over here. It's a RAID drive. But this has been our main. I think Sam uses these as well.
Yeah, I just want to bring up, so the LaCie's 1 terabytes Thunderbolts, one thing you have to check, especially if you're shooting 4K or really large video files, these are typically 5200 RPMs. G-Tech just came out with these G-RAIDs, which are 7200 RPM. They are a bit more expensive, but for editing, they are faster and a little bit better. These work 90% of the time, and it's just on some of these bigger projects. 99% of the time. I've been using these just because they work a little bit faster, and when the projects get more hands-on, they just work a little bit better. And then even beyond that, for anything way larger, we have proper desktop hard drives. But
yeah, we come back, we upload it to one of those drives or our server, and then if we're working with someone like Phil, we'll somehow ship it or drive it or meet up with him and give him a drive, and then we'll share a project file over Adobe Premiere on Dropbox, which those are tiny, right? Those are only like 400 megs. if that.
Yeah, small.
And then that's how we like edit back and forth and show each other cuts. And then when we're done, we leave them on our RAID and let them sit. And then when we deliver to clients, when we want to show them videos, we'll use Vimeo with the password where we can actually embed it into our website, which looks really nice and clean. And then now recently we started using Box, which will let you have a password on a link to either download or view. I think I sent Phil our first one this morning from Box. We just switched over to that. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, Box I think is from Microsoft, so they're.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think it was their kind of thing. One thing that Vimeo though has done recently, I haven't actually looked into it, but I keep seeing the ads. There's some sort of note taking thing where on Vimeo it's great for collaborating, where you can watch Vimeo videos and basically write notes on the video in specific locations on the video itself. Ooh. At any time. So it's, so I'm gonna try to look for the link for that, because that's a game changer. I mean, that's something that we would all love to use, is if we can watch a video and, you know, if we have a note about, hey, look at this is overexposed, or oh, this person needs a little bit more light on this side, or oh, I don't like this title. You can just kind of click on the video in the location and add notes to it. So that's something that it might just be part of their Pro plan or their Plus plan, but that's also, you know, who knows? Maybe Box will do something like that too. Okay, cool. So there was a question earlier about After Effects graphics, and I think it was Sugar Duck who asked about doing these revealing text boxes. The way that is done is with a track matte animation. So I don't want to get too detailed about it here because it will take it too long, but I do have a tutorial and I'm going to share the link here, the track matte tutorial. And so that is basically how you do any sort of animation like that, where you're revealing text from a background. And I also have some other tutorials on that topic. I would watch some of my lower third tutorials. So just go to the channel and search for my lower third tutorials. You'll learn how to do similar effects. And if that doesn't help you, just comment below later on after the video or after this session, and I'll try to, you know, maybe even make a specific tutorial about that.
I think your video is not showing up on our YouTube link. It's just showing us.
Oh, weird.
Before it was editing back and forth, but
I thought it was going back and forth too. Well, people are just enjoying looking at your face. Maybe because I have you clicked on. Everyone's just been watching you the whole time. That's
yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Will and Sam's faces.
Our reactions to everything you're saying.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, there's that.
That's why someone asked, who's the third person in the video? Because it was just my voice. I was like, it's me, Phil.
It's me, Phil. I run the show.
Okay, cool. So let's get on to our next question from our forum, from people who asked the questions before. So they say, I'm going to use the example of the iPhone with a third-party video app. I can set the bitrate to 25, 50, 75, 100, or 120 Mbps, megabits per second. The higher Mbps, the better the quality, but again, storage, processing during editing, etc., has higher demands. Is there a point of diminishing returns with where this number is set? Many articles say to always use the highest number. Do you agree? Thoughts? I'll just go ahead and answer that one.
Yeah.
So those Mbps's are actually very low. So typically for like a 1280 by 720 HD video, which is kind of the lower end HD video, that your bit rate when you export is going to be around 5,000 Mbps. Or wait, am I getting this right? 5,000. Oh no, that's right. 5,000 kbps, so 5 Mbps. I wonder if this person has the right numbers, because it doesn't really make sense. 120 Mbps would be like super crazy high. So, well, basically with a 1920 by 1080 video, you're looking at around 8,000 to 15,000 kbps, so 8 to 15 mbps. So for this kind of video, I guess I always recommend shooting the highest mbps too. If this is like in the app itself giving you these options, then I would use the highest. Like if it was like you could plug in your mbps, I wouldn't use anything higher than the highest option. I'm guessing. So for whoever's watching this, send us a question on the course, because I want to make sure that you're clear and we're clear about what these numbers actually are. So, but yes, basically a higher Mbps is higher quality, it's bigger file size. And yes, there is a point where going higher doesn't matter, because if your final export is going to be 1920 by 1080, then you don't need a Mbps that's meant for something that's 4K. Or if your final export, even if it's like, if your final export is a screen recorded video versus a talking head video, then you might not need it to be as high as the talking head video. So I would post this question to the course and ask us there if this didn't help, because I don't think it did.
I mean, I think from a like shooting perspective, like the highest you can possibly shoot is usually like a good rule of thumb. You know, if you're worried about card space and worried about editing later on, then maybe you start to take that into consideration. But if you have the capacity to shoot at that high rate, even if you're going to distribute at like a low resolution, like there's no reason not to, unless, like I said, space or whatever. I don't know. If that's like more of a philosophy of shooting more so than the actual numbers, but.
No, I think I agree. That is a good. I think we had a question about speed. There was a chat, I think, a question in the comments about a speed for a computer for video editing. What's the cheapest computer for computer editing?
This best laptop for video editors.
Okay.
This one might be good
questions.
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to like what kind of footage you're editing and what you're doing. I have a MacBook Pro 2012, and I've had it since 2012, and I've been able to pretty much keep up with most of my editing on it when I don't have stuff that's like 6K. But you know, I think Sam edits more on the road than I do, so I don't know.
Yeah. Or go ahead, Sam.
Well, I was just gonna say it does come back to what camera you're shooting with and what those file sizes are like. Obviously, having a hard drive that also is fast enough is a big thing. You know, having a Thunderbolt or USB 3 external hard drive, just because that it can eat away at your desktop, slow down your computer if you have all the video files on your laptop. I used the MacBook Air for as long as I could, and before I transitioned to shooting with the A7S II and having 4K footage or 60 frames per second, it was great. But that was when I was shooting video on the D800, so very different file sizes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think also a lot of people aren't on Macs, so I don't want
we're very
Apple
based.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and with our Macs are just going to be more expensive. But I think the key things to look at are your RAM, so your memory.
Yeah.
And at a minimum, 16 gigabytes of RAM is what you need now, especially if you're recording or editing HD footage. And I know on a Mac or on a PC, you can get it for a lot cheaper than what a Mac is priced at. So your RAM and then the latest processor, if you can get a Intel i7 processor. Those are the two things that I always say. Like if you're investing in a computer,
card, right?
And a graphics card. Yeah. The thing with graphics cards, there's so many different types with Mac versus PC. So there's not one that I recommend though.
Having one in your computer at least does make a difference.
Yeah, totally. So, but when you are, looking just 16 gigabytes of RAM and Intel Core i7 processor, that's what I would, make sure at a minimum.
Yeah.
Yes, Meyer, who asked the question, graphics cards are so confusing to me. Maybe we can do some research about graphics cards for PCs, or if you have a computer you're thinking about getting, post it to the course and we can look at it and see if we can find a graphics card that would work.
I will say also, if you're looking to get into editing and all that type of work, and you see video as something in your long term and something you want best in your life, putting the money up for maybe a slightly nicer computer will make a big difference. Just because, I've plenty of friends, Will, whoever, who have been working on the same laptop for many years now. And as long as you have those sort of beefier RAM and graphics cards, it will last. It can, continue to edit most of the footage, even if cameras change and all that changes. They should last.
But I mean, I invested like close to 2,000, if not more than that, on this laptop, and I use it every other day, and it's editing every project, and it's with me on every shoot. And the time you use it is just so, it's invaluable. Like if you were to like stretch it out, like say it's $10 a day, like I've easily gone over $2,000.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Or every time you use it.
Meyer just posted his budget is 1,000. So I think that could get you a nice computer.
Yeah.
So. Cool. So next question from our list. Phil, can you talk about how you did audio on your documentary on Anthony?
Ooh.
I just shot a cooking video of my wife and our neighbor. I have nice Audix HC mic on a stand. That worked out very well, but man, audio is hard. Audio editing is tedious, and the ability to fix audio with Audacity is limited compared to stills or video. I can see why people use music or separately record narrative. Do you guys want to talk? What did we use for the?
We used for the audio.
Yeah.
We went directly into the F5.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm the worst with sound, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah, we had the lavalier that we attached directly. Was the question more so he's already shot his footage, correct?
Yeah, but I think I think it'd be good to talk about how we did, or any tips or advice from that shoot that we have.
Sure. I mean, so the rule of thumb is once you have someone mic'd, have them just sort of continuously talk at the level that they'll be talking at. While they're going through that, you try and set the levels to more or less be hitting between -20 dB and -6 dB. And whatever your camera is, if there's meters on it, you should be able to see 20, 10, and 5 typically on that scale. You don't want anything, if they're talking, the levels should not be under 20. It'll be really tricky at that point. And from there, you just need to monitor it. Again, if it's just on automatic, it's going to adjust to whatever is loudest, and that's going to completely make your life a living hell when you're trying to do editing, because the levels will be all over the place, and you'll have to go back and adjust it all after the fact.
Yeah. So
yeah, having the lav, having the shotgun, setting your levels, making sure it's never peaking, going into that red area. And yeah, just try and get the cleanest audio from the get-go. Because yeah, he's right. Editing audio is very difficult and takes a lot of skill. So
yeah, I'm looking at this microphone that they're using, this Audix HC microphone, and it's a really great microphone. I would say that I'm trying to find out the pickup pattern of this microphone, though, to see it might not be as directional as you would like for like something like that. If someone's talking, and it might have picked up a lot of background noise. So that might be one reason why that picked up a lot of background noise versus like something that's more directional. After we shot that documentary, I purchased the Rode NTG3, and that's what we recorded the course with. And after using that, man, it's going to be hard for me to go back to using lavaliers, just because the quality of the shotgun, and you have the Sennheiser, it's just so much better if you can, if you could use that. Yeah. So I'm looking at this. I'm talking and I'm researching at the same time, but the pattern of that microphone you're using is more open, and it's a great microphone, but it looks like it's more used for musical stuff. And I could imagine that more cardioid pattern being for if you're recording a band or a choir or something, and you're trying to get a lot of the sound from all over the place rather than something very directional. So, now it's after the fact and you already shot it. And yes, audio editing is the worst.
The worst.
So you can do as much as you can with Audacity, but audio is just one of those things that fixing it in post is just not something you can always do.
Is Audacity a program, or are you just saying they should do as much as they can with?
No, that's a program. It's a program that it's like a free program. There's a tutorial on Video School Online's channel if you want to look it up, and you can. It's easy. It's like got this easy and pretty good background noise removal thing. So, yeah.
Hey Phil.
Yeah.
There's one thing I just want to bring up from IR that I just thought of. For the computer under $1,000, I just looked up good computers for editing video, and there's tons of things online to find. But one thing that I have used in the past is refurbished iMacs or refurbished Macs, and basically through Apple they sell Macs that have been sold back to them or that had to be fixed through them. And you can get them for much, much cheaper, but guaranteed good quality and still get warranties on them and all that type of stuff. So if you do want to get on a Mac, that's a good option, and you can find a lot of iMacs, desktop computers or laptops for much cheaper than their normal price. And you just Google refurbished Apple.
Yeah, you can even sometimes get educational discounts too.
Yeah,
if you are in a school or if you have a school email address. All right, this is good because I was able to do a little bit of research. So that microphone actually is the Audix HC. It's not even a cardioid, it's a hypercardioid mic. So it's picking up everything in front and everything in back of that microphone.
There you go.
That's why you're getting so much background noise. So when you get a microphone, hypercardioid, not good for video. Okay. So what you do want to look for is something that is, I guess, more cardioid, or I think it's super cardioid is like the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Hopefully we answered that question. I think there was a question about Jade. Okay. Thank you. I have a Canon 600D and I've had it for years now. When do you think would be a good time to upgrade? Do you think it's worth upgrading?
I just looked up the camera. It came out in 2011. It does shoot 1080 full HD.
So this is the Canon T3i too. It's the same.
Basically, yeah. Really, I mean, if it's not, because it's HD, and today, for the most part, if you have a 1920 by 1080 video, like that's really all you need. If you're in need of slow motion or 4K for whatever reason, maybe upgrading there. But really, I think that camera should still work fine if it's not giving you issues. Really, to maybe invest in some glass or some lenses might be the thing that can really make that camera look a little bit cleaner, look a little bit better if you're still shooting on the kit lenses. Jade.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I mean, it's a great starter camera. It's a great budget camera for people who want to get into video production. And yeah, like Sam said, the quality is going to be great, or it's going to be very similar to a camera that is in that sort of that budget of like $400 to even like $1,000. So unless you're jumping up to something like the Panasonic GH4 or GH5 or the Sony A7 series, or even like maybe a Canon 5D, it's going to be, I would, just use that and get better lenses. Yeah. All right. We got a good question from Hakan from our forum. He's not able to attend, but he wanted to ask about lighting when using glasses.
Oh gosh.
Tips for wearing glasses or subjects wearing glasses during interviews.
That's a very hard thing.
Don't wear glasses.
If you can, try not to. If you need to, there are subtle ways of adjusting where the lenses are looking, so making them tilted down a little bit more so that they're not reflecting the lights in front of you, but instead reflecting what's off the ground. Sometimes that can work.
Yeah, like the two ways that I deal with it when you're interviewing someone who's wearing glasses, because in the film industry, right, they have really expensive glass that's non-reflective, or they just take the glasses out and they're just frames and no one can tell. But if you're interviewing someone obviously in a documentary and they're wearing glasses and that's just who they are, the two things I use are try to dance your lights around as much as you can, and if that doesn't work immediately, because usually you can tell if you raise it up or lower it depending on your style of shooting, it'll get rid of it. And the second one is tilting it in some way. And I've seen sound operators sometimes put tape on their ears or on their inside their glasses, and that just enough tilts the glasses just enough just to like avoid any lights up above or anything like that. So you know, it's that's definitely an acquired skill to kind of get it right.
Yeah, you have to think, if you're wearing glasses, everything in front of you, above you, to the sides, that's all going to be reflected in that glass. So, and if you're outside with the sky, it's going to be near impossible to get rid of that reflection. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah, if it's you, Hakan, that is wearing the glasses, I don't think it's actually that expensive nowadays. Whenever, because I wear glasses on the computer and my wife wears glasses, I think the upgrade to do the non-reflective glasses is relatively cheap nowadays. It might be like another extra 40 or 50 bucks when you get glasses. So it might be worth it to just do that if you're going to be on computer a lot. I mean, maybe not now, but the next time you go in to get a glasses update. He had another question about green screen. So when you are using green screen, but the background is kind of narrow, there's not that much space, any tips on lighting it like that? Because we always say, you know, more distance is better. You got to separate the green screen from the subject so there's not as much spill. But if you're stuck in that situation,
yeah, typically I try if the distance between the subject and the green screen is not, you're not able to separate it. If you can, and you have enough lights, try to sneak lights on the sides of your subject, behind your subject, to light the green screen independently of your subject. That's usually what they do normally in like bigger movies, is you're lighting the green screen for one, and then you're lighting your subject differently. So that takes a little bit more control with your lighting gear. So if you don't have that control, the only thing I would suggest would be to get your lights as high as possible so that the shadows casted from your subject are on the floor or lower, assuming you're not shooting their feet, because lighting a green screen floor and a background at the same time is a whole other thing. That's really all you can do. I don't know. Is there anything?
Yeah, it's green screen. It's a great tool, but it can be, you know, you start needing a lot of lights to make it work in confined spaces.
It
also putting light on your subject, like a backlight on your subject, can help break them away from the green screen. And even if there is some green spill, sometimes just blasting the back of your subject with light can get rid of that green spill. But again, then you're having lights lighting your green screen, lighting your subject, and lighting the back of your subject. That's, you know, it's getting complicated at that point. So
yeah, we should do a lesson. I mean, I know we kind of all don't like green screen a lot, so that's why we didn't include much about it in the course, but it probably would be beneficial for people if we did just a basic green screen lighting.
Yeah,
I got like a cheap, well, at the studio, you have the green screen, and I bought like a cheap pop-up green screen that we could test out for people.
For the amount I don't like it, I tend to end up doing it a lot. But I think it'd be cool to see us shoot and then you edit, because I think what surprises me when it gets in the hands of an editor is like how forgiving it sort of can be. Yeah. Like some of the chroma keys, especially now versus like 8 years ago, are like way better. And I'll spend so much time trying to, like, you know, make shadows go away, make sure everything's even, and then the editor will come by and just be, what are you doing? I got it. Yeah. So I don't know. It'd be good to see shooting and the editing at the same time, I think.
Yeah, and on like a budget. So he had one more question, or he actually had two more questions, but we've got like 10 minutes, and I want to run through the questions in the chat first. We're definitely not going to get to all the questions. I knew we weren't going to from the forum, so we're going to get to those in the next one. And if there's something very specific or pressing for people watching or who watch this later and we didn't answer your question, please just post it in the course. We like having it in this sort of format so that we can kind of get to all your questions at once. You know, we all have busy lives, and as much as we want to answer all your questions as soon as you have them, I think this format has actually been really good today. So hopefully you're liking it. I don't know, maybe you guys can comment and see what we can do differently, or what, if you like this, or what we can do better next time. But his other question was about background noise. Again, we get a lot of those questions. I'm going to post a link to a YouTube video for removing background noise with Audacity, or you can just search on Video School Online's YouTube channel for remove background noise or Audacity. That's removing a background, and you can learn how to do it there. So a question that we had in our chat from Jaro was, does it make a difference if I shoot in 50 frames per second or 60 frames per second for slow-mo when I render it out at 25?
Ooh.
You guys are the ones that shoot the slow-mo.
I mean,
what do you mean rendered out? Like, is your timeline at 25?
yeah, I'm
Like
sure
that's because that's
yeah,
when you start using it. Then yeah, I would say, like, if your final timeline is going to be 25 frames per second for some reason, then your slow-mo should be whatever the, you know, the dividend of that is, whatever math term that is. So 50 frames per second.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, how much stuff do we shoot at 60 and render out at 23,976? Because I think
I
if
guess
you're
at
converting
the
it
end of the
anyway,
day, the 60 will be slightly slower than the 50.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. At the same time, that'd be an interesting test actually, because we don't deal with 25 frames per second. We're typically 23,976 or 29,97
Or 24.
or straight 24, straight 30. But because those are then, I guess, 30 double is 60, that's why people in the US use 60 opposed to 50. So that'd be interesting to see if it looks better one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, you're shooting at, so this is for frame rate though, not shutter speed. So 60.
Right, correct.
So shooting at 60 FPS, I mean, the only reason why you do that is if you want to slow it down, or I guess if you're shooting like something high speed, like action sports or something, and you want it to be like crisp and clear like that, if you're playing it normally.
Personally, and this has gotten me into trouble in the past, but I always shoot the slowest I can. If space is there and, you know, and whatever, and I need it, but just the thought being, I can always speed it up. It doesn't need to be that slow. It could be slightly faster, but at least have the option to go to that full slowness. That being said, 60 frames per second will take up more space than 50 frames per second because you have 10 more frames each second. So if you are limited on space, maybe shoot 50. I think the difference between 50 and 60 though is going to be very minimal.
Yeah, in thinking about that, I would test it. Like I love 60 frames per second. I think it's like a sweet spot for a lot of music videos and like some stuff that I did. Like the Fuji video I did was all 60, and I ramped it up and down, up and down, up and down, and that timeline was 23.98. But I didn't even think about that. But like 50 frames per second just seems a little odd, and the timeline at 25. I'd be really curious why the timeline's at 25.
He's probably in the UK.
Yeah.
30, 30.
No, they do 25.
Then yeah.
Yeah. So I think 60, but either way, I think shooting at 60 is what we would recommend. So
well, test it.
test it. Yeah. Well, test it to see what the difference is in slow mode. Maybe you like one versus the other. It's going to be very like a minute change, but I'm just going to answer this other question from Marshall about what is Adobe Audition CC like for audio editing. So I've used Adobe Audition for editing podcasts, and I can tell you that it's way more advanced than Premiere Pro, but at the same time, over the years, Adobe has tried to add a ton of effects and kind of simplify the audio editing aspect of video production so you can do it all in Premiere Pro. So a lot of the same effects are going to be in Premiere Pro. So you don't necessarily need to bring audio into Audition, and I never do. So I'll be completely honest that I don't edit my audio in Audition, but at the same time, I'm not recording a lot of stuff where I need some major editing, and I feel like I try to make sure that whatever I record is good enough or easy enough to edit in Premiere Pro. That being said, professionals use Audition or more professional audio editing applications than Adobe Premiere Pro. The interface is easier for audio editing. It's kind of easier to cut and drag and move things around. That's something that I found. There probably are more like effects, but if you're just looking for basic audio editing, Premiere Pro is fine.
I have heard that Audition is more geared towards music people as well. I've heard that obviously it works with the Adobe Suite and works well, but I have heard it really shines when you're doing multi-track instruments and all that type of work. Whereas film editing, if you're just trying to make someone's voice sound cleaner, research what all those audio effects are in Premiere. Guaranteed, one of them can help you, make the voice sound a little richer or full or whatever it is.
Basically any EQ effect or like noise removal, high end, low end filter that you'd find in Audition is also going to be in Premiere Pro for your audio. So but what you said, multi-track editing, if you're dealing with lots of instruments, then I think Audition's better. But for most video work, I think Premiere's going to be just fine. Okay, cool. We got 5 minutes, so let's try to do a speed round of some of these questions. Could you say something about the use of different focal lengths? If I want to record myself standing, should I use a wide angle lens or should I move the camera further away from me? Ooh, I had this question. This was another question we had in the course recently too from someone.
If you're filming yourself without a tripod, then you're probably gonna have to do a wider angle just because you have to hold it. And I think the iPhone is equivalent to a 28 millimeter, so at least 28 is sort of a standard focal length there. If you're filming yourself on a tripod or something, having a longer lens will make it more difficult to focus. So if you're setting up your camera and you're trying to focus on yourself, being farther away will still be difficult. All that being said, I think for an interview or for that sort of setup, having a longer focal length, 35, 50, 85 does look more professional in my personal opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, I just, if you can have a second person manning your camera, get a longer lens, use that. I think it'll look cleaner. Things will be out of focus in your background and all that. If you want the selfie walking around type of shot, obviously the wide angle is going to be a better option there.
Yeah, I agree. And that was something that even at, I think 18 millimeters, someone was wondering about it and saying like everything looked a little bit distorted. So I think this person probably is using a tripod. So
the other thing with focal lengths and all that, just remember to check if you're shooting a crop sensor camera, 18 millimeter on a full frame is going to be a true 18, whereas on a crop sensor, it's going to be closer to a 24-ish millimeter. So there's a conversion that happens if you're shooting crop sensor. So when people are throwing focal lengths at you, just know if they're talking about crop sensor or full frame.
Got it. Cool. So another question about importing videos into Premiere Pro. They're having issues with their MTS files where the video is coming in, but not the audio is coming in. This might have something to do with, I don't know what camera you're using, but when importing into Premiere Pro, try using the media browser and not just the other standard import options of like dragging the file from your Finder or Documents into Premiere Pro, because sometimes with the like current cameras, the MTS files might not automatically hook up to the audio files, depending on how you shoot or how the camera records. So in Premiere Pro, go up to your window and then media browser, and through that window, find your files and bring them into Premiere Pro and see if that works. So yeah. The next question was about recording audio straight into your computer. They use GarageBand, but not higher end programs. And they're asking what we recommend for recording into the computer or even using Audacity. Honestly, in terms of quality, GarageBand is going to be great. Audacity is going to be great. Using QuickTime Player is going to be great. It sounds like you're using a Mac because you have GarageBand. The quality is going to be the same, but you might not have as many controls. So you might not be able to, it depends on if you're using a USB microphone, if you're coming in through a soundboard, if you're using a Zoom H4n or any other device to get your mic into your computer. where you control that audio might be different. Like QuickTime, you don't really have volume settings in QuickTime. You'd have to go into the settings of your computer to increase or decrease the input volume of your microphone. Whereas GarageBand has, I believe they have more like an input control where you can change those levels. But in terms of quality, it's all pretty much going to be the same with those different programs. So, yep. How about, are you using any teleprompters or apps for reading scripts?
No, but we should.
We should.
Yeah. This is something we realized when we created a course, this past course. Sometimes we were recording 12 minutes of video that ended up being like 30 seconds in the class. So going forward, we are going to be doing more scripting and probably using teleprompters. I'm going to have to find the name of it, but they make really inexpensive iPad or iPhone teleprompters nowadays. And there's also an app. I'm going to get it from my buddy and I'll post it, but it's awesome. It's a teleprompting app where it basically follows your voice. So instead of having your setting the speed of the teleprompter text going at a certain time, it follows your voice. So if you start talking, it will move for you. And then if you slow down or speed up, it'll go with you. So you can basically set it up all yourself. And I know, I believe it was Scott Duffy and Jeremy Deegan, who are co-instructors or instructor buddies of mine, who recommended that. So I'll have to find that.
It's going to put some people out of a job.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I did just look up, Parrot makes an iPad.
Parrot, that's what it is.
Teleprompter, and it's $99. And I have no idea what the quality is, but it's basically just an angled mirror that you put on top of your thing, and you're able to shoot through that piece of glass. So
that's the one. I think they might have different options too, Parrot, but that's the one they recommended. And then I just looked it up. Prompt Smart is one of the apps where it actually recognizes your voice and follows it. So it scrolls for you. So that's something we will be doing more testing, because we haven't done it ourselves, but we've realized that scripting might be a good idea for creating courses in a more efficient manner. It's more upfront work, but it might help in the long run. So we're at 3 o'clock. Let's just quickly answer the last couple questions in the chat, and we'll leave the rest. One from Marvin: how do you stay focused to start and finish a new course?
Like in focus, or like just focus?
I think focus, like not camera focus, but focus. I mean, maybe you guys can talk about our process for creating the video production boot camp, like outlining and then filming and then editing.
Yeah, I mean, we started like a very large Google Doc where we had all the topics that we wanted to talk about, and then we all shared it. And actually, I think it took over a week, and we all were like kind of just contributing and writing down our thoughts. And then Sam went in and basically filled out almost everything as far as like coherence. And then going back to what we were just talking about, teleprompters, we show up on set at Phil's house, and we started shooting everything, and the three of us just worked through it all. We all rotated as like director, shooter, and talent, and just tried to follow along with our outline. But I think that's when we kind of ran into trouble, because we would start to speak too much, or we go too long on one subject, and then kind of had to pull ourselves back. I think we're kind of leaning on Phil. Well, I mean, all of us really. We've all done multiple courses, so we're trying to like get better at it. But I think scripting it out and having a teleprompter would actually keep us more in focus for the entire length of the course, and a little bit more coherent, and probably less time on set shooting. So
I also think we've all, before any of this happened, we all talked about wanting to be in the education game and wanting to share some of our skills and different things with people. And I think it's something that as we've done more of these, we've seen the benefits and have gotten a lot out of it. Also, to keep ourselves fresh on the latest techniques or different things, it's something that we enjoy doing. So it's not necessarily pulling teeth every time you have to go out and do this stuff. It's actually hanging out with friends and typically a pretty fun time. So,
and nerding out on everything video.
And that.
Yeah.
We're geeks.
I think the outlining thing is a key thing to start with, and it kind of stays with you through the end of even the video editing process. And that's kind of one way that we stay focused is if you have a solid outline, you can kind of from there just plan everything from shooting to editing and even uploading your course and knowing how to title your lessons. Start with an outline and yeah, go from there.
Right.
So the last question was about DSLR, good starter DSLR cameras. There is a lesson in the course under lecture 9, which is our recommended cameras, and it has a list, a PDF document that you can download, and it has a list of DSLR cameras that we recommend. So Fred or whoever else can start there, and it goes over some basics. But people throughout DSLRs that they're using now, like the Canon T5i, T3i, the Canon 70D, or the Canon 80D, those are great starter cameras. And if you have a little bit more money to spend, the Panasonic GH4 is going to be a relatively cheap option right now. If you have even more money, the Sony A7S or the Panasonic GH5 might be a great option going forward.
Also, the Sony A6300 or A6000, really small compact camera, fastest autofocus out there right now, extremely lightweight. And just to go back to your question, Fred, I would say that having the right lens for the job for whatever you're trying to shoot is going to make a big difference. So maybe spending a little bit less on the camera and a little bit more on the lens. I do recommend, lenses are very important. So
the lens will hold its value longer.
Yeah, make sure you, at least get a lens that's going to work for what you're doing.
At the same time, make sure you get something so you can start shooting, because that's the most important.
Yeah.
True that. Awesome. Thank you, Sam and Will, for being here. Everyone watching. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. We had, people coming in and out. I don't know how many people throughout, but we were up to like 25 people watching live. We've got 16 people watching live now. So we appreciate you being here. If you have more questions, please post them in the course or use the Google form if you want to hear us answer them live in our next month's Q&A office hours session. And if you're watching this later on and you're interested in taking the course, just head over to videoschoolonline.com and click on the courses link, and there will be a link to the video production bootcamp and a range of other courses. And this, of course, you're going to be watching this, but all the rest of our live Q&A sessions are going to be on the Video School Online YouTube channel, or also on the course. I'm going to put together a document that has all links to all of our Q&A sessions for everyone to check out after the fact.
This is fun. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, it was fun. I feel like we got through a lot of questions, so hopefully it was beneficial to people. Awesome. Thank you everyone for watching. Fred, Marshall, the Present Day Clan, Marvin, Eileen, Sugar Duck, Jade, Jaro, Meyer, Hasubi,
Supplement Mentor,
James Cousins,
James, everyone watching live. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate being part of the class. If you haven't reviewed the class, please leave a review. It really helps us out. And if there's anything else we can do to improve the class, let us know. Send us a message or post a comment on the course. Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a great day, great month, and we'll see you in the course.